There's a country in the world where people routinely live past 100 years old, where stress levels are lower, mental clarity is sharper, and even in the middle of one of the busiest cities on earth, you can find pockets of absolute stillness. That country is Japan. And what's fascinating isn't just that they live longer, it's how they live. The daily rhythms, the quiet philosophies, the unspoken rules that most people in the West have never even heard of. Today, we're going to walk through 7 of those rules. Not ancient proverbs dressed up to sound deep, but actual practical principles that the Japanese have woven into their everyday lives for centuries. And here's the thing, most people completely ignore them, not because they're hard to follow, but because they're so simple, we dismiss them. Let's change that. Rule number 1, ma, the art of meaningful pause. In the Japanese language and culture, there is a concept called ma, written with a character that literally means gap or interval. But it's so much more than empty space. Ma is the intentional pause between sounds in music, the silence between words in a conversation, the open space in a room that isn't filled with furniture, the breath you take before you respond to something that frustrated you. Western culture tends to fear silence. We fill every quiet moment with noise, scrolling through our phones, turning on the TV in the background, jumping to fill conversational pauses because they feel awkward. But in Japan, silence isn't empty, it's full. It's where meaning lives. Think about the last time you had a conversation with someone and you rushed your response before they even finished talking. That's the opposite of ma. Ma asks you to wait, to let the moment breathe, to not immediately react, but to pause and let understanding settle. You can practice ma in tiny ways starting today. When you finish a task, sit quietly for 1 minute before moving to the next. When someone says something that triggers you, let 2 seconds pass before you open your mouth. When you walk into a room, stand still for a moment before doing anything. These pauses don't make you slow, they make you intentional. And intentional people are almost always calmer people. Rule number 2, wabi-sabi, finding beauty in imperfection. If you've heard one Japanese concept before watching this video, it was probably this one. But knowing the word and actually living by it are 2 completely different things. Wabi-sabi is the philosophy that beauty is found in things that are imperfect, incomplete, and impermanent. A cracked ceramic cup repaired with gold, a weathered wooden door, a garden that isn't perfectly symmetrical, the wrinkles on an old person's face. Wabi-sabi says that these things aren't flawed, they're honest, they're real, and real things are more beautiful than perfect things. Now here's where this becomes a rule for a calm life. Most of our anxiety, and I mean most of it, comes from the gap between how things are and how we think they should be. We believe our home should look a certain way, our body should look a certain way, our career should be at a certain point by a certain age. And when reality doesn't match that mental image, we suffer. Wabi-sabi invites you to release the template. There is no perfect version of your life that you're failing to reach. There's just your life, unfolding exactly as it is, with its cracks and its roughness and its incompleteness. And that is enough. That is actually beautiful. This doesn't mean you stop trying to grow. It means you stop punishing yourself for being a work in progress. Because every beautiful, lasting thing in nature is a work in progress too. Rule number 3, ikigai, your reason for getting up in the morning. Ikigai is often translated as reason for being. It's the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. You've probably seen the diagram, but the diagram misses the most important parts of Ikigai as a daily practice. In Okinawa, Japan, one of the famous blue zones where people live longest, researchers found that most elderly residents couldn't even translate the word retirement. Not because they didn't understand the question, but because the concept was foreign to them. Why would you stop doing what gives your life meaning? Even fishermen in their 90s still go out on the water, not for money, for the feel of it, for the purpose it gives their mornings. Ikigai doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be a mission statement or a 5-year vision. For some people, Ikigai is tending a small vegetable garden. For others, it's being the person their grandchildren call when they're scared. It's the small, consistent act that says, I am here and this matters. The reason this rule creates calm is because purpose is an anchor. When you have a reason to get up in the morning, external chaos has less power over you. You're not drifting, you're oriented. And there is tremendous peace in that orientation. Ask yourself honestly, what would feel meaningless if you stopped doing it? Start there. Rule number 4, Kaizen. Small steps every single day. The word Kaizen means continuous improvement. It became famous in manufacturing and business strategy, but its roots are deeply personal. At its core, Kaizen is the belief that small, consistent improvements compound into remarkable change over time. Here's why this matters for a calm life. One of the biggest sources of overwhelm is the size of our goals versus the smallness of our current actions. We want to be healthier, but we're not exercising. We want to write a book, but we haven't opened a document. We want to change our lives, but we don't know where to start, so we don't start at all. And the gap between where we are and where we want to be just sits there, creating a low hum of anxiety that never quite goes away. Kaizen dissolves that gap, not by achieving the goal faster, but by making the daily action so small that there's no reason to resist it. Instead of committing to an hour at the gym, commit to putting on your shoes. Instead of writing 1,000 words, write one sentence. Instead of meditating for 30 minutes, take 3 conscious breaths. The magic isn't in the smallness, it's in the consistency. 1% better every day for a year means you're 37 times better by the end of it. And along the way, you stop feeling like someone who is failing to change. You start feeling like someone who is already in motion. That feeling, the feeling of forward movement, is one of the most underrated sources of calm available to us. Rule number 5, Shinrin Yoku. Let nature do what medicine cannot. Shinrin Yoku translates directly as forest bathing. And before you dismiss that as too soft or too spiritual, let me give you the science first. In the 1980s, Japan's government began formally researching the health effects of spending time in forests. What they found was remarkable. Just 2 hours of walking through a forest, not hiking, not exercising aggressively, just walking and breathing, reduced cortisol levels significantly, lowered blood pressure, improved immune function, and measurably reduced anxiety and depression. The Japanese government eventually designated over 60 official Shinrin-yoku trails across the country and made forest therapy a recognized part of preventive healthcare. The secret ingredient, researchers discovered, is something called phytoncides, aromatic compounds released by trees that, when inhaled, directly affect our nervous system. But even beyond the biochemistry, there's something about natural environments that resets the mind in a way that nothing else does. The sounds, the light, the irregular patterns of leaves and bark, they engage our senses without demanding our attention. And that gentle engagement gives our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain responsible for worry and planning, a genuine rest. You don't need a forest. A park works. A quiet trail works. Even sitting near a tree and paying attention to it for 10 minutes has measurable benefits. The rule isn't complicated. Get outside, go somewhere green, and stop trying to accomplish anything for a little while. Just breathe. Just notice. Just be in the presence of something that has been alive longer than your anxiety. Rule number 6. Gaman. Dignity in difficulty. This one is harder to hear, but it might be the most important rule on this list for people who are genuinely struggling. Gaman is a Japanese cultural value that roughly translates to enduring the seemingly unbearable with patience and dignity. It emerged strongly after World War II when Japan faced unimaginable devastation and loss. But instead of a culture of complaint or collapse, what took root was something else, a quiet, dignified endurance. An understanding that suffering is part of life, that hardship is not an injustice to be outraged by, but a reality to be met with composure and grace. This is not the same as suppressing your emotions or pretending you're fine when you're not. Gaman isn't denial. It's a posture. It's choosing how you carry your difficulty. It's the difference between suffering and suffering with dignity. Between being overwhelmed and being steady even when things are hard. In a culture obsessed with comfort and instant relief, where every discomfort is something to be eliminated immediately, Gaman asks a different question. What if you can handle this? What if sitting with difficulty, rather than running from it, is actually what builds the kind of person you want to be? Some of the calmest people in the world are not people who have the easiest lives. They're people who have learned that difficulty passes, that they are more capable than they think, and that their peace does not have to depend on their circumstances being perfect. That is Gaman. And quietly, powerfully, it changes everything. Rule number 7. Ichigo ichie. This moment will never come again. The final rule is also the most beautiful. Ichigo ichie is a Japanese phrase meaning one time, one meeting. It was originally associated with a tea ceremony, the idea that each gathering of people, each bowl of tea shared, is a completely unique moment that will never be repeated exactly. The same people may meet again, the same tea may be served, but the precise convergence of that moment, the mood, the light, the particular thoughts in each person's mind will never exist in that exact way again. And because it will never happen again, it deserves your full presence. This is the rule that most directly confronts the way many of us live. We are physically present in our lives, but mentally somewhere else, replaying the past, rehearsing the future, narrating and judging and planning instead of simply being here. We eat dinner while watching our phone. We sit with people we love while thinking about work. We move through beautiful days completely numb to them. Ichigo ichie doesn't ask you to be mindful as a productivity strategy. It asks you to recognize that right now, this exact moment is irreplaceable. The conversation you're having, the meal you're eating, the person sitting across from you, this will not come back. Not this version, not this light, not this moment in your one small life. When you really internalize that, something shifts. You stop trying to fast forward through your days to get to some future moment when things will finally be good. You start recognizing that good is often already here, waiting for you to show up. 7 rules: Ma, wabi sabi, ikigai, kaizen, shinrin yoku, gaman, and ichigo ichie. None of them require money. None of them require a dramatic life change or a trip to Japan. They require something rarer than that: attention. The willingness to slow down long enough to actually meet your own life. The world is loud. It profits from your distraction and your anxiety and your sense that you are always behind, always lacking, always chasing something just out of reach. These 7 rules are quiet. They ask you to stop chasing and start arriving. You don't have to adopt all 7 today. Pick one, sit with it, let it ask something of you. Because calm isn't a destination you reach, it's a practice you return to again and again in the small, ordinary moments of a life that, if you pay attention, turns out to be extraordinary.